of peace and a very warm welcome to the 15th edition of Dialogue with Boys, first in an international platform. This is Akash, pursuing my undergraduation in mathematics, and also I'm a volunteer of Shanti Ashram for the past 4 years. I'm a youth committee member of the Global Network of Religions for Children. This first kind of its dialogue with boys was inaugurated on International Women's Day 2018. Over 1986 adolescent boys representing the next generation have joined this dialogue and shared their opinion on shaping societal values, burden of socialization, gender parity, violence against girls. To begin the dialogue, I invite Aditya Narayanan to welcome the gathering and set the context.
Warm greetings. I'm Aditya, volunteer of Shanti Ashram from India. In today's generation, we see a lot of crimes that are being inflicted on women, especially in a situation wherein we are in a global crisis, that is the COVID-19 pandemic. This situation indeed has increased the violence and the crimes that are being inflicted upon women. At this situation, we thought, what could be done? Where to start? How to start? As said by Francis of Assisi, start by doing what is necessary, then do what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. What was necessary? What was the thing that we had to do at the right point of time was a dialogue, that is, an open heart discussion with youngsters, with adolescent boys, who will be the future men in tomorrow's generation. So, this dialogue with boys, in which we have an open heart discussion, wherein they give their opinions, perspectives, corrective measures, and it's a platform wherein they understand their role in tomorrow's generation. So, will this dialogue with boys, will these corrective measures, just by speaking, bring a great change tomorrow? May not. But little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. These positive changes right from now, being instilled in young minds, will pave way to bring a violence-free, a crime-free society in tomorrow's generation. As this is an effort to empower the youth to enrich the nation, as said by Swami Vivekananda. Selected few lines from Ralph Waldo Emerson's poem, which says, "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to leave the world a better place, to know that even one life breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." And that's the success we are all striving for. Thank you.
Dear Aditya, thank you for setting the context. This is a great beginning to a great session. Every child is a promise, a sacred gift, a living sign of the future. The challenge before us is therefore how to empower children and enhance their inner ability for hopeful and positive living. In that regard, now I will invite Siranjeevi Rangaraj to take up the stage to start the dialogue with the adolescent boys on ending violence against girls.
Vanakkam, hello, hola, and konnichiwa to everyone. I am Siranjeevi Rangaraj, pursuing first year integrated MSc PhD in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at University of Hyderabad. I was a panelist on Dialogue with Boys for its first 11 edition, and I have been a part of the organizing team for the last 4 editions. It is an immense pleasure for me to be an organizer to this international edition today. On behalf of GNRC India and Shanti Ashram, we would like to welcome you to the 15th edition of Dialogue with Boys in an international platform. As Mahatma Gandhi said, if we are to reach real peace in this world, we should start with children. When the Panama Declaration was commemorated in the 5th Forum of the GNRC, commitment number 1 was, we commit to listen to children with empathy and respect, welcome their wisdom and gifts, and continue to work side by side to address violence against them. This is the time to listen to the voices of young boys and who want to change society for the better. Let us commence with the panel discussion. Panelists, please introduce yourself.
Warm greetings to everyone. I am Ishwar, doing my grade 10 in Coimbatore, India.
Greetings to all. I am Aditya from grade 10, studying in Coimbatore.
Warm greetings to everyone. I am Pavitran. I am doing my 9th grade in Coimbatore.
Warm greetings to everyone. I am Nitish, doing my grade 10, Coimbatore, India.
Greetings to everyone. This is Sarish. I am doing my 10th grade at Coimbatore.
Ishwar, my question to you is, what are the root causes of domestic violence and its impact in the society during this pandemic?
For whatever form of violence that takes place in our society, our triage must not be based only on the ordinal numbers. We must give the same amount of importance even if it is one case or 1,000 cases. Nothing is to be ignored. Speaking in that context, whenever I read newspapers before lockdown, there used to be maximum 2 or 3 cases of domestic violence. But during the period of lockdown, there was a significant rise in these number of cases. Almost every page of a newspaper contained a reported case. Then let's just imagine, if there are so many reported cases, then how many unregistered cases there would be? Statistics says that in the first 4 phases of lockdown, the total number of domestic violence incidents in India were the maximum recorded in the last 10 years. In fact, from the period from 25th March to 31st May, there were 31,447 cases reported, which were the most in the last decade. So I noticed one thing. In these cases of domestic violence, only the most vulnerable person in the family suffers from gas leaks or explosions of the stove or etc. I do not think that all of these cases are accidental. Some of these are pre-planned and are the effect of torture and violence. I think that the root cause of this is the pre-existing mindset of people that women must always stay indoors, they must do only the household chores and like that. So if that attitude of people is changed, then people will stop treating women as their inferiors and the rate of violence in our society will reduce by tenfold.
Aditya, my question to you is, what are the reasons behind sending a child to work in this lockdown?
I wanted to talk about child labor in this because during the lockdown, it's not only women are being affected, it's also younger boys who are getting affected because of the child labor. A family's survival depends on the earning members' daily wages. Those who receive low amount of income cannot afford to buy mobile phones and electronic gadgets. Hence, the children cannot attend the online classes. At times like this, parents send their child to work. This is one of the important reasons behind sending the child to work. The child rights like right to education, right to participation and right to protection are being violated in child labor. During the lockdown, the students attending private schools have now joined government schools. In such cases, the situation of students already studying in government schools is much worse. The child realizes the family situation and goes to work. This is also an important reason for child labor. And as per International Labour Organization, the economic and social crisis will hit children particularly hard. An estimated 42 to 66 million children could fall into extreme poverty as a result of crisis this year, adding to an estimated 386 million children are already in extreme poverty. For an example, a program from Shanti Ashramam named Sudha was going on. A 15-year-old who was living with his grandma, who was running a small business with pull-up cart. Due to lockdown, they were not able to run their business, and the boy did not write his grade 10 exams too. Due to poverty and lack of income, he started working in his uncle's shop.
Pavitran, my question to you is, have you faced or seen any kind of violence during this pandemic?
இந்த பேண்டமிக் டைமில் ஸ்கூலுக்கு போக முடியாத நிலைமை இருக்குது. அதனால எல்லாரும் ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸ் அட்டென்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. என்னாலையும் என் 2 ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ்னாலையும் ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸ் அட்டென்ட் பண்ண முடியல. பிகாஸ் எங்ககிட்ட ஆண்ட்ராய்டு மொபைல் இல்லை. இதை பற்றி நாங்கள் ஸ்கூலில் என்ன பண்ணலான்னு டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணும்போது இங்கே ஹெச்எம் அங்கே இருக்க டீச்சர்ஸ் எல்லாம் பக்கத்தில் இருக்க கிளாஸ்மேட்ஸ் கிட்ட ஃபோன் ஷேர் பண்ணி படிங்கன்னு சொன்னாங்க. அப்போ நானும் என் 2 ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸும் பக்கத்தில் இருக்க ஒரு பையன்கிட்ட போய் நாங்கள் இந்த மாதிரி உங்க கூட மொபைல் ஷேர் பண்ணி படிக்கலாமா அப்படின்னு கேட்ட பொழுது அவங்க அம்மா வந்து நாங்கள் 3 பேரும் என்ன கேஸ்ட்டுன்னு கேட்டு எங்களை வந்து டிஸ்கனெக்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. இது வந்து எங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப வருத்தமாக இருந்தது. ஏன்னா ஒரு மொபைல் ஃபோன் ஷேர் பண்ணுறதுக்கு கூட நம்ம சொசைட்டியில் கேஸ்ட் பற்றி கேட்குறாங்களேங்கிறது தான். இன்னொரு விஷயம், செக்ஷுவல் அபியூஸ் பற்றி. செக்ஷுவல் அபியூஸ் நியூஸ் வந்து நான் அதிகமாக நியூஸ் பேப்பரில் படிச்சிருக்கேன், எஃப்எம் ரேடியோவில் கேட்டிருக்கேன். ஆனால் இந்த பேண்டமிக் டைமில் நான் இருக்கிற ஏரியாவில் நடந்திருக்கு. 15 வயசில் இருக்க 2 பசங்க 10 வயதுக்கு கீழே இருக்க 2 பெண் குழந்தைங்களை செக்ஷுவலாக அப்யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. இந்த மாதிரி செக்ஷுவல் அப்யூசஸில் வந்து இந்த பேண்டமிக் டைமில் தான் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகிருக்குன்னு நான் சொல்கிறேன். ஏன்னா ஸ்கூல்ஸ் வந்து அதிகமாக இப்போ இந்த கோவிட் ஆரம்பிச்சதுலேருந்தே இப்போ வரைக்கும் போகிறதே இல்லை. அதனால் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு வந்து நிறையா படிக்கிறத தவிர மற்ற தேவையில்லாத எண்ணங்கள் தான் மனசில் தோன்றுது. அதனால தான் இந்த மாதிரி செக்ஷுவல் அபியூஸெல்லாம் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகிருக்குன்னு நான் சொல்ல வரேன்.
Nitish, my question to you is, how has cyberbullying increased in this pandemic? How does family play an important role to stop violence against children?
To enjoy ride and bike, both the wheels should be of same size, then only the journey will be joy. Most of the women felt unsafe during this corona pandemic. Why? Because we have the phone in our hands. Hundreds and hundreds of crimes are happening in our day-to-day life, and we are reading through newspapers. But what can we do? We have to take the phone at least to satisfy basic needs. One such example is such a huge block of school just came into the small screen. Education is the key to success. We have another option, just to take the phone. In the month of May, more than 3,437 cases were registered, in which 60% were online harassment and 6% were approved as fake sites. But what can we do? Even the good morning word have been changed into Google morning. Second, I want to make that in lockdown, all of them felt like a caged bird and turned into an angry bird. But what can we do? If a girl says, I want to go out, the girl's parent mindset is all the boys are rough and tough, they cannot understand the feeling. But my only answers to them is no, no and no. Because of the small percentage of boys' action, parents feel unsafe to send their girls out. As a part of the majority of the boys, it's our responsibility to have conversation between them and show them what they are doing is wrong. When a social evil happens to a woman, I encourage them to report to the government. One such example is a Kasi case, who have cheated more than 150 girls and have collected money. So I want every girl, even if a social evil happens to a woman, she should be bold to say to the government.
Arish, my question to you is, how has COVID-19 crumpled lives of young people and children? Tell us about gender-based violence and domestic violence in this COVID-19 pandemic.
In the pandemic situation, for both the genders, நம்ம எல்லாத்துக்குமே வந்துட்டு செக்ஷுவல் ஹராஸ்மெண்ட், மென்டல் டிப்ரெஷன், டொமஸ்டிக் வயலன்ஸ், சைல்ட் லேபர் இது எல்லாமே வந்துட்டு ஒரு பீக்கில் தான் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு. ஏன்னு பார்த்தோம்னா இந்த பேண்டமிக் சுச்சுவேஷனில் நம்ம ஆஸ் நிதிஷ் செட் குட் மார்னிங் அப்படிங்கிறது கூகுள் மார்னிங் ஆயிடுச்சு. நம்ம காலையில் நம்ம கண் திறக்கிறது நைட் நம்ம கண் மூடுற வரையுமே சோஷியல் மீடியாஸ், ஆன்லைன் இது எல்லாத்துலேயுமே தான் வந்துட்டு நம்ம மர்ஜ் ஆகிருக்கோம். ஏன்னு பார்த்தோம்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்ம ஜென்ரல் லைஃப்பில் பார்த்தோம்னா நம்மளுக்கு ஸ்கூல் இருக்கும், காலேஜஸ் இருக்கும், நிறைய கமிட்மெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்கும். ஆனால் இப்போ பார்த்தோம்னா ஸ்கூல், காலேஜ் எல்லாமே ஒரு ஸ்க்ரீனில் தான். அது இல்லாமல் கமிட்மெண்ட்ஸும் எல்லாமே ஒரு ஆன்லைன் மீட்டிங்கில் தான் நடக்குது. இது மூலியமாக கேர்ள் சைல்ட்ஸ்க்கு வந்துட்டு நிறைய அபியூசஸ் நடக்குது. அது எப்போன்னு பார்த்துட்டோம்னா இப்போது ஒரு ஃபேமிலி இருக்காங்கன்னா அங்கே வந்துட்டு ஒரு கேர்ள் சைல்டு இருக்காங்க, ஒரு அப்பா அம்மா இருக்காங்க. எக்கனாமிக்கல் இஷ்யூனால அவங்க வேலைக்கு போனால் இன்னொரு பக்கம் அன்எம்ப்ளாய்டு இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க இந்த கோவிட் டைமில் வந்துட்டு அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு மானிட்டர் இல்லாமல் அவங்க வந்துட்டு ஃபோனில் என்ன வேணால் சர்ச் பண்ணி என்ன மாதிரியான அபியூசஸ் விஷயம்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு அப்புறம் வந்துட்டு என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, ஒரு ஹை ரிஸ்க் பிஹேவியருக்கு வந்துட்டு உள்ளாக்கப்படுவாங்க. அப்போ வந்துட்டு இந்த மாதிரியான தனிமையில் இருக்கிற குழந்தைங்க மேலே அவங்களோட அந்த அட்ராக்ஷன் வந்துட்டு ஜாஸ்தியாக விழுகும். அப்போ அதனால அபியூசஸ் வந்துட்டு ஜாஸ்தி நடக்குது. அதுவும் இல்லாமல் இப்போது கம்பேரிங் டு த ஜென்ரல் லைஃப், ஸ்கூல் அப்படிங்கிறது ஒரு சேஃப் ஜோனாக இருக்குது. ஆஸ் ஃபார் கேர்ள் சைல்ட்ஸ் ஒரு 8 hours ஆச்சு அவங்களுக்கு வந்துட்டு ஒரு சேஃப் ஜோனாக வந்துட்டு ஸ்கூல் வந்துட்டு இந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷனில் வந்துட்டு அவங்களுக்கு அமையும். அதுவும் இல்லாமல் இப்போது கேர்ள் சைல்ட்ஸ்க்கு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மென்டல் டிப்ரெஷன் ஆஸ் வெல் அஸ் பாய் சைல்ட்ஸ்க்கும் மென்டல் டிப்ரெஷன் வந்துட்டு ரொம்ப அதிகமாகவே இருக்குது. பிகாஸ் இந்த மாதிரியான விஷயம், இந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷனில் வந்துட்டு நம்ம வெளில போய் நம்மளே தானே வந்துட்டு ரெஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கவும் முடியாது. ரெஸ்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு பார்த்து திருப்பி ஸ்க்ரீன் மட்டும் தான் போய் உட்காருவோம். ஏதாவது காமெடிஸ் பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு முடிய நம்ம கம்ப்யூட்டர் ஸ்க்ரீன், லேப்டாப் ஸ்க்ரீன், டிவி ஸ்க்ரீன் அது மூலம் தான் போய் உட்காருறோம். அந்த டைமில் வந்துட்டு நம்ம கிராண்ட் பேரண்ட்ஸ் கூட இல்லை பேரண்ட்ஸ் கூடயே நம்ம ஃப்ரீயாக வந்துட்டு பேசக்கூட நம்மளுக்கு சான்ஸ் கிடைக்க மாட்டேங்குது. எல்லாமே வந்துட்டு ஒரு 45 inches ஸ்க்ரீனை வந்துட்டு எல்லாமே வந்துட்டு அடங்கிடுது.
What are the preventive measures we can take to end violence against children and girls?
Changing the mentality of boys is very important. Changing their mentality at a very young age can reduce violence in a large scale in our society. Next, building a strong society from scratch is very important. We have to build a society where everyone knows to respect the opposite gender. This will help to reduce the rate of violence. Whatever has happened has happened. We cannot go back to the past and change what has happened. The most we can do is to ensure punishment to those who have committed crimes so that the same faults are not repeated again. All girls must know to step out, and their parents must never suppress them from doing so. Girls must know to overcome their fears and fight for themselves so that they give no room for men to exploit their weakness. Children must always share everything with their parents, because we as children may not know what is good and what is bad, but our parents as adults, they know right from wrong, and they can guide us, they can correct our mistakes so that we avoid doing them in the future. Next, both boys and girls must realize that everyone are equal. In fact, there is even a statement by United Nations that all children are equal, but this is not known to everybody, so we must make this known to everyone. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that making mistakes is one thing, accepting them is another. Once we realize and accept our mistakes, we will never think of doing it again, because our gut feelings and conscience will never allow us to do so.
இந்த மாதிரி செக்ஷுவல் அபியூஸ் மற்ற தேவையில்லாத விஷயங்கள் எல்லாம் தன்னோட குழந்தைகளும் ஈடுபட வேணான்னு பேரண்ட்ஸ் நினச்சாங்கன்னா அவங்க குழந்தைகளுக்கு என்ன சொல்லணும்னா, இப்போ வந்து ஒரு குழந்தை ஃபோன்லேயே அதிகமாக யூஸ் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்கான்னா அந்த குழந்தை வந்து அதில் நல்ல விஷயத்தை கற்றுக்குதா இல்லை கெட்ட விஷயங்களை கற்றுக்குதான்னு பேரண்ட்ஸ்க்கு எப்படி தெரியும்? சரி, இப்போ என் குழந்தை வந்து ஃபோன் யூஸ் பண்ணவே மாட்டாங்க, வெளியே இருக்க பசங்க கூட தான் போய் விளையாடுறாங்கன்னு சொன்னால் அந்த பசங்க கிட்ட இருந்து அந்த பையன் நல்ல விஷயங்களை கேதர் பண்ணுறானா இல்லை கெட்ட விஷயங்களை கேதர் பண்ணுறானா எப்படி தெரியும்? அதனால் பேரண்ட்ஸ் வந்து எல்லா விஷயங்களையும் கவனிக்கணும். ஃபோனில் என்ன பார்க்குறான், நல்ல விஷயம்தான் கற்றுக்குறான்னா பரவாயில்ல. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து வெளியே இருக்க பசங்க கூட விளையாடுறான்னா அங்கேருந்து என்ன கற்றுக்குறான், யார் கூட விளையாடுறான், எல்லாத்தையும் கவனிக்கணும். அப்புறம் பேரண்ட்ஸ் வந்து சொல்லணும், இந்த மாதிரி ஏஜில் இந்த மாதிரி தேவையில்லாத எண்ணங்கள் தோணலாம், ஆனால் நீ வந்து உன்னோட எட்டிக்விட்ஸையும் உன்னோட ஆம்பிஷனையும் யாருக்காகவும் விட்டு கொடுக்கக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லணும். இந்த மாதிரி இன்ஃபர்மேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் தான் குழந்தைகளுக்கு மட்டும் சொல்லாமல் தான் தெரிஞ்சவங்க ரிலேஷன்ஸ்க்கு எல்லாத்துக்கும் சொன்னோம்னா அவங்களோட குழந்தைகளும் சேஃபாக ஆகுவாங்க. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து இப்போ வந்து நம்ம ஒரு தீய வழியில் போய்கிட்டு இருக்கோம்னா அந்த வழி வந்து ரொம்ப அழகான பூக்கள்லாம் பூத்து பார்க்குறதுக்கே ரொம்ப அழகாக தெரியும். ஆனால் அதுதான் நம்மளை ஒரு பெரிய நரகத்தில் கொண்டு போய் விட்டுரும். அதுலேருந்து அந்த பையனால் வெளியே வரவே முடியாது. இதுவே நம்ம வந்து ஒரு நல்ல வழியில் போகணும்னா அந்த பாதை வந்து ரொம்ப கரடுமுரடாக இருக்கும். அந்த பாதையும் நம்ம கடந்து போனோம்னா தான் அங்கே நமக்கு பெரிய ஒரு சொர்க்கமே காத்துட்ருக்கோம். ஸோ தட் இஸ் யுவர் டர்ன். நீங்கள் தான் எந்த வழியில் போகிறதுன்னு முடிவெடுக்கணும். இன்னொரு விஷயம், கடவுள் வந்து ஆண்களை மட்டும்தான் ஸ்ட்ராங்கராக படைச்சிருக்காங்கன்னு நினைக்காதீங்க. ஆண்களை ஃபிசிக்கலி ஸ்ட்ராங்கராகவும் பெண்களை மென்டலி ஸ்ட்ராங்கராகவும் அவர் படிச்சிருக்காரு. எதுக்காக? இந்த மாதிரி அப்யூஸ் அண்ட் ஆன்லைன் அப்யூஸ் சேட்டிங் மூலமாக டிஸ்டர்பன்ஸ் பண்ணவா, இல்லை ஒற்றுமையாக வாழறதுக்காக தான் படிச்சிருக்காரு.
So I think so. I want the power of Superman. If I get the power of Superman, I'll make every girls to realize that all brothers are there for their safety. Brothers and sisters together as friends will face whatever the challenges life sends. 100 candles can be lit by a single spark of fire. Hope the sparks are provided by organizations like UNICEF, Shanti Ashram, etc. So what I am saying is, bad things are everywhere, good things are rare. So seek good, find good and do good. So I want every woman to throw out the word fear, because fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. But I always prefer second option. So my recommendation to prevent this is, I need strict government rules and punishments for those who have committed the crime. Second, every parent should monitor the child, what they are doing in the online, even though they have the trust. Women are the architect of the society, but those architects are their family. So I want every family to teach boys and girls how to interact with each other, behave with each other. As Abraham Lincoln said, government is of the people, for the people and by the people. Even if a social evil happens, a woman should be bold to say the truth. Everyone has the right to speak, so be bold to say the truth.
Aditya, by which ways we can stop child labor?
As Gandhiji said, poverty is the worst form of violence. Here are a few ways to stop child labor. Creating awareness on the importance of education and spreading it among people. NGOs can come forward to help the children for education. Those providing financial assistance for the families with low income will help their children go to school. Those who got opportunities can help those who are waiting for the opportunities. Finally, 2021 will mark the UN International Year for eliminating the child labor. Thank you.
Arish, could you please share ideas to end violence against children and young people?
இப்போ இந்த எல்லாத்துக்குமே வந்துட்டு ஒரு ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா ஃபஸ்ட்டு மானிட்டர் பண்ணணும். இதுக்கு ஒரு சிறந்த எக்ஸாம்பிள் என்னன்னு பார்த்தோம்னா, இப்போ நம்ம எங்கேயும் வெளியில் போகிறோம்னா வீட்டுக்கு வந்துட்டு ஒரு பூட்டு போடுறோம். அது பூட்டு போட்டாச்சும் நம்மளுக்கு தெரியும். பட் எதுக்கோ ஒரு இடம் வந்துட்டு நம்ம அதை திருப்பி நம்ம புல் பண்ணி பார்த்துட்டு பரவாயில்ல இது லாக் ஆகிருக்கு அப்படின்னு நினச்சிப்போம். ஆனால் அதுதான் வந்துட்டு மானிட்டர், ஒரு கண்காணிப்பு கண் வந்துட்டு எப்போவுமே இருக்கணும். பட் அதுக்காக இது லாக் ஆகுதுன்னு திருப்பி இழுத்துட்டுனா நம்ம மற்ற வேலைகளை வந்துட்டு பார்க்க முடியாது. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி தான் நம்மளோட குழந்தைங்க மேலே வந்துட்டு நம்மளுக்கு ஒரு மானிட்டரிங்கான கண் வந்துட்டு எப்போவுமே இருக்கணும். அதாவது நம்ம சொல்லலாம், இந்த பேண்டமிக் சுச்சுவேஷனில் என் பையன் நல்லா டெக்னாலஜி யூஸ் பண்ண கற்றுக்கிட்டான், எப்போவுமே லேப்டாப் முன்னாடியே உட்காரான், நிறைய சர்ச் பண்ணுறான், நிறைய பார்க்குறான் அப்படின்னு நம்ம பெருமை சொல்லிக்கலாம். பட் அவங்க என்ன பார்க்குறாங்க அப்படின்னு நம்ம கொஞ்சம் முன்னாடி போய் பார்த்தோம் நம்மளுக்கு என்னன்னு தெரியாது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி தான் நம்ம அவங்க என்ன பார்க்குறாங்க அப்படிங்கிறத வந்துட்டு ஒரு கண்காணிப்போடு நம்ம இருக்கணும். அதுக்கு டெக்னிக்கலாக வந்துட்டு இப்போ நிறைய ஹெல்ப்ஸ் வந்துட்டு நடந்துருக்கு. ஏன் இப்போ பேசிக்காக மெயிலில் கூட இந்த மாதிரி நிறைய பேரண்ட் கைட்லைன்ஸ் ஒரு ஆப்ஷன் இருக்குது. அதை நம்ம ஓப்பன் பண்ணுற ஒவ்வொரு மெயில் ஐடியில் நம்ம லிங்க் பண்ணிட்டோம்னா நம்ம என்ன மாதிரி விஷயங்களை வந்துட்டு ப்ரௌஸ் பண்ணுறோம், சர்ச் பண்ணுறோம், எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணுறோம் முதற்கொண்டு நம்ம பேரண்ட்ஸ்க்கான டீட்டெயில்ஸ் வந்துட்டு போயிடும். த்ரூ இந்த மாதிரி டெக்னிக்கல் விஷயத்தை வந்துட்டு நம்ம பின்பற்றலாம். தேங்க்யூ.
People with greater authority who are in a position of power, like religious leaders, can take advanced steps in their level, like ensuring mandatory education to children and prohibition of child labor.
Mobilizing our global and regional networks.
Avoiding unnecessary advertisements while using social media will reduce half of the crime.
ஆஸ் அன் இண்டிவிஜுவலாக நானும் என் ஏரியாவில் இருக்க ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸும் சேர்ந்து மக்களுக்கு இந்த மாதிரி சொல்யூஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் புரிய வைக்கிறதுக்காக அவேர்னஸ் கிரியேட் பண்ண போகிறோம்.
டயலாக் வித் பாய்ஸ் 14 எடிஷன்ஸில் நாங்கள் இது வரையும் 1968 பீப்புளை வந்துட்டு நாங்கள் ரீச் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். வி வில் பி வெரி ஹாப்பி. அண்ட் இந்த 15th எடிஷனை வந்துட்டு இன்டர்நேஷ்னல் லெவலுக்கு கொண்டு போக போகிறோம். ஸோ ஐ எம் ஸோ ஹாப்பி ஃபார் தட். அதுவும் இல்லாமல் எங்களோட நெக்ஸ்ட் டார்கெட் என்னென்னா ரூரல் பிளேசஸில் வந்துட்டு 30 வில்லேஜஸ் வந்துட்டு கவர் பண்ணுறது தான்.
Thank you so much, panelists. It was thought-provoking dialogue. I agree with all the points that were given by the panelists. These ideas will make tremendous change in our society. I would like to conclude this panel with a short summary. Culture of silence and taboo about violence against children and girls has been the two major aggravating causes in the society. We believe sessions like Dialogue with Boys will be breaking point to make miracles in the society. In future, this culture of silence must be broken, and young boys and youth should talk and how to make concrete action to end it. I would suggest 3 ideas. As a global citizen, let us make a promise to ourselves. I will be the matter of change. That is, I won't make any kind of violence like bullying towards another's life. We can also arrange medical support to the victims who experienced violence. Do remember one thing, think globally and act locally, because epidemic of violence will crumble the blessed life of a child. So don't be cause for a victim, be the cause for change. And welcome to the 21st century, where we are disconnected from each other's life, where dialogue between people with differences is decreasing, where we are becoming increasingly comfortable with not taking responsibility for the social problems around us. This dialogue is an effort towards reversing this isolation we have from each other. It is a forum where boys and young men come together to see what they can personally do to make the world a better place. It is a safe space that encourages honest discussion and gives boys the room to ask questions and find their role in the society. The discussion we have benefit from the diversity of the group. The boys come from different religions, backgrounds and ideologies, but they are all here for the same purpose, to actively participate in improving the safety of women and children. Violence against women and children is still a permanent fixture in our news cycles, but it is only the most gruesome cases or a large number of cases that makes the government take notice. We must understand that any kind of violence, regardless of magnitude or frequency, has the terrible power to crumble the lives of children and women. We must fight violence at every stage and start with the violence we see around us every day. Dialogue with Boys is an attempt at curbing violence at its initial stage so that that it never progresses to something we feel helpless about. Today, I request everyone watching, all of us who are members of the global society, to be responsible for spreading peace and to take a resolution to end violence against children and women. It is not a dream, it is a plan.
Dear Siranjeevi, thank you for moderating a session which have brought many challenges faced by girls as well as the solutions for that. Thank you panelists for your valuable thoughts and ideas. There is science behind everything. There will be science behind everything. So we have to understand the science behind the adolescents that influence them. It is really an honor to invite our expert, Dr. Jayashree Ashwin, Senior Pediatrician, Indian Academy of Pediatrics, to deliver the facts and science about adolescents.
I bring warm wishes to all of you from Coimbatore. I am happy and delighted to be part of this session, Dialogue with Boys, which is going global for the first time in partnership with ICPH and Shanti Ashram, and we have a separate chapter called IAP Adolescent Chapter, since adolescence is an age group which has its own unique health issues. These health issues are not only physical but also mental, social and psychological health issues come up during this phase. So we pediatricians have to be well equipped with the knowledge and also the necessary skills to deal with adolescence day in and day out. Adolescence is the phase which is a challenge for the girls and boys who go through this, but also to parents, teachers and the society to how to handle them. So in order to do this effectively and help our adolescents to cope up the stress which happens during this phase, we need to have a basic understanding of the biology and the changes which happen in the body and brain. Adolescence is a phase which is sandwiched between childhood and adulthood. It starts from the age of 10 years and ends by 19 years. This adolescence word is derived from the Latin word which means to grow, and it is divided into early, mid and late adolescence based on the age group, and this is a phase when various changes happen in the body of every adolescent boy or girl. During this adolescent phase, every child has to juggle a lot, meaning they have to perform multiple tasks. They have to handle the emotional changes happening in their body. They have to also handle the sexual reproductive changes which happen, and also develop an identity for themselves, resist peer pressure, build strong relationships and acquire necessary skills for their future and the path which they have set for themselves. In order to achieve all these things, this adolescent health has to be very, very well maintained, and this is the key for them to continue to perform well during this phase. The most important hallmark of adolescent phase is puberty. Puberty is a term given to the sexual maturity or the maturity of the reproductive system of every boy or girl, along with the growth spurt that happens during this phase. When we say growth spurt, the rapid increase in weight and height of every adolescent boy or girl. In a boy, if we take, the puberty starts from around 12 to 13 years and goes on for about 5 to 6 years period and ends by 17 to 18. And during puberty, the weight gain is close to 50% of the adult weight, and about 15 to 20% of adult height is also achieved during this phase. And along with this growth spurt, there are psychological and social changes along with emotional changes which happen in every adolescent, meaning you start making your own decisions, you start thinking abstractly, start taking roles of adults, and also sexual maturity happens during this phase. How all these changes are achieved during puberty? The important reason being the male hormone testosterone. Testosterone is the hormone secreted by the male reproductive organ testis, and this is triggered by the pituitary gland which is situated at the base of the brain. So the pituitary starts its peak function during beginning of puberty, and the hormone gonadotropins, meaning the FSH and LH, are responsible for the sperm production and testis to secrete testosterone. Growth hormone is another important hormone from the anterior pituitary, and this is responsible for the increase in height, the bone and muscular growth which happens in every boy during this phase, and also the increase in weight. Having seen the changes happening in the body of an adolescent boy during puberty, what happens to the brain during adolescence? Scientists have been thinking for long that growth of the brain is almost complete by the age of 5 to 6 years, and not much of changes happen during adolescence. 90% of the adult brain weight is also reached by the age of 5 to 6 years. But after the arrival of MRI and repeated scanning of adolescent brains, it has been shown that radical changes take place in the brain of adolescents too. And this change is called as pruning. To explain pruning, we can take the example of a plant. We prune the plants and cut out the unnecessary stems and branches which grow wild, so that you increase the fruitfulness and the yield from every plant. In the same way, the adolescent brain neurons are also pruned, and the unnecessary gray matter neurons are severed, and it increases the efficiency with which the adolescent gray matter functions, because more efficient and precise accurate functions are essential starting from adolescence. And this process is called as pruning. And this pruning doesn't happen in all areas of the brain at the same time. For example, the areas which control hearing, vision, spatial perception, the limbic system, the emotional control, these centers mature much before the prefrontal cortex, which is necessary for high order thinking skills. And this is the reason why adolescents react more, they emote more, and they show a lot of behavioral changes, and also function very efficiently and with great precision when it comes to visual and hearing acuity. And this understanding is very important for all of us, so that we deal with our adolescents empathetically. So this pruning process ends only by early 20s, and this understanding is very vital to know why adolescents take risks during their lives. This risk-taking behavior of adolescents is seen in both boys and girls. If we see statistics, 16 to 20-year-old, that is the late adolescent phase, they are twice as likely to meet in car accidents when compared to adults. And with girls we see the problem of teenage pregnancy, and habits like gambling, cigarette smoking, or drinking, or usage of illicit drugs, all of them have their beginning during late adolescence. And these risk-taking behaviors happen because of the maturity of the limbic system, which is the emotional center of the brain, much before the high order thinking skill center, which is the prefrontal cortex. This understanding will help us as parents, teachers, and members of the society to help our adolescents to cope through this phase better and keep away from unnecessary risk-taking behaviors which can put their life into danger. The unique health issues which we see in our adolescents in the present technology-driven world is tech dependency. During this COVID pandemic, education is also happening online. Most of the sessions which our boys or girls learn is also happening through our gadgets, and by the click of a gadget you are able to get all the informations. So considering the positive aspect of technology on one side, we should also be forewarned and supervise our adolescents when they indulge with the usage of social media. We face problematic internet usage syndrome in our adolescents, which is becoming increasingly common. So it's our primary duty as doctors, as parents and teachers that we inculcate the right usefulness of technology to our adolescents in order to avoid tech dependency. The next important health issue is emotional, meaning the hormone testosterone is responsible for many of the emotional changes which happen in the body and brain of the boy. They become increasingly self-conscious. Their looks matter a lot during this phase, and they spend a lot of time in dressing. Appearance is very, very important. The attitude which comes along with the age group of adolescents, and they also tend to show some amount of behavioral issues like aggression and violence. This can be violence towards opposite sex or violence within the same sex, and they become extremely sensitive and they show mood changes very often. So even though we say the hormone is responsible for much of the changes, we should also understand that it is our prime duty to keep the emotions under control, having understood the change which happens in the body and brain, and also take the help of the seniors like parents or your role model or the teachers in order to cope up with the stress. Emotions take a roller coaster ride. On one side, our adolescents are sometimes elated, super excited, and on the other hand, they also show low self-esteem and mood changes, become dull, and they want some lone time for themselves. So this kind of vast emotional changes are very commonly seen in adolescents, and the reason being their inability to manage stress whenever it happens during this phase. And one of the important emotional or behavioral change which we see in boys and girls is depression. So along with aggression and violence on one hand, you also see depression on the other hand, and the reasons are the change in sleep pattern, changes in appetite, and changes in behavior. All these things will play a role in managing emotions during this phase. Coming to nutrition, very, very important during adolescence because the body and brain demand more during this phase. And this phase is very challenging as your emotional center is already matured. You tend to move towards junk food, tasty food rather than healthy food. So what is in my plate is a question which you have to ask every time you sit for a meal. So the meal should have a right mixture of macro and micronutrients. Macro meaning the carbohydrate, protein and fat component, and micro meaning the vitamins and minerals. The need for vitamins and minerals is more during adolescent phase because of the rapidly growing muscles and bones. 50% of the plate should be filled with fruits and vegetables of various colors and textures, which is very important to get a right mix of vitamins and minerals. 25% of your plate should be filled with proteins, which can include both vegetarian and non-vegetarian protein. A dairy product should be introduced with every meal, and 25% can be carbohydrates, which should be preferably whole grains, whether it is wheat or it is rice, in order to maintain the B complex availability from grains. So let us stick on to a healthy diet in order to give the continuous supply of nutrients to the rapidly growing body and brain. Another important aspect which we have to remember is sleep hygiene. Like we say, hygiene and health go together. We have to maintain a hygiene with regard to sleep as well. 8 hours of sleep is compulsory for every adolescent. This time is essential not only for the secretion of growth hormone and also for the effective refreshing time so that you can function efficiently the next day. So brain also needs rest, and this 8 hours of sleep becomes vital for every adolescent. So to sum up, let us ensure a healthy lifestyle for our adolescents, which includes a healthy diet giving ample supply of vitamins and minerals, carbohydrates, proteins and fats in right amounts, exercise for at least 2 hours a day to keep them fit and avoid obesity, adequate amount of sleep at least for 8 hours a day, and also cope up with the stress during this phase by acquiring necessary life skills to face the challenges. And last but not the least, keep away from risk-taking behaviors which can threaten the performance or the life of the adolescent. And to achieve all these things, it is very essential that as parents, doctors and teachers, we have proper understanding of the brain and body of adolescent. With these few words, I thank all of you for your patient listening and wish every adolescent to be the hero of his own story.
Thank you, Dr. Jayashree Ashwin, for your informative and interactive session. Now we are at the end of the session. Many challenges are kept before the world, as well as some solutions are also delivered by the young minds of the world to end violence against girls. It is our honor to invite Dr. Kesavinnu Aram, President of Shanti Ashram, for her concluding remarks.
The year was 2017. Newspaper headlines, television sets disproportionately presented to us the increase in the number of rapes experienced both by women and by young girls. Around the world, a tagline seemed to emerge that India could be the rape capital of the world. As an Indian, as a woman, as someone who works with children, I knew that we had come a long way since independence. Yet, I also knew there was work to be done. I did not want India to be remembered that way. I didn't want the next generation to believe that violence was a given. We met at Shanti Ashram in a small group and discussed this. And what came and was launched in the International Women's Day in March 2018 was the Dialogue with Boys. It was a dialogue. It was a dialogue informed by science. It was a dialogue between boys so that they could take in what was happening around them and respond to it concretely. It was also a dialogue that visualized a future that was different. Science was there. Connection to reality was there, and the possibility of changing something actively was there. We traveled from school to school to school. It was a traveling dialogue. 2,000 boys, almost 2,000 boys have been part of this traveling dialogue. COVID-19 has not stopped this dialogue. We've just gone virtual on the online platform. But each time what I find very moving is that it is science informed and young boys can discover the power of their adolescent brains, that they can take forward, perpetuate again violence as they have been socialized in living ways that is deeply immersed in patriarchy, or they can take charge of their life and see how that adolescent brain can be pruned, can be managed for something that can lead to a more peaceful world. I'm also very, very grateful to all the young boys who have worked for this dialogue. They have contributed their presence, they've contributed their ideas, and they have contributed collectively to a future that is different. Let's keep working together. Let's press for progress. I'm very happy that we're going international during this global week with the 15th edition of the Dialogue with Boys.
So I would like to conclude by saying that I will be the matter of change.
I will be the matter of change.
I'll be the matter of the change.
I will be the matter of change.
I will be the matter of change.